With the WINN FM News, I am Kevin Brown.
And I am Yolana Weeks.
Our top stories.
The Ministry of Health maximizing its capacity to provide internal education opportunities for workers and quality healthcare to patients.
ECCB RSS ARU launched 2025 Creative Youth Competition, inviting ECCU students to showcase critical thinking. St. Kitts and Nevis forges stronger security ties with Brazil ahead of LAAD 2025. Grenada's Prime Minister says the European Union should apologize and pay reparations to Caribbean nations for the transatlantic slave trade. St. Lucia's opposition leader files a judicial review over Citizenship by Investment program allegations. Internationally, Israel says Hamas will pay for failing to return Shira Bibas. Now, the details.
Curtis Martin, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Health, said the ministry will continue to prioritize comprehensive and relevant training in customer service, health technology, and other practices, as it has done over the past year. Martin believes that healthcare professionals must be equipped with the skills and the knowledge necessary to address the sector's growing challenges, and he also believes that staff development is paramount.
So once they show up to work, we should be in a position to serve people. And as I've said to the staff, that in healthcare, there's a particular reason why somebody thought in their wisdom to coin the words healthcare, to actually join them together in marriage. And so I always say, if you're not interested in healthcare, then you should basically find something else to do, because we cannot play around with the lives of people. It is that simple. Any one of us can be on that hospital bed, and we'd like to make sure that we're treated a certain way with respect. And so for our service, for our training, we want to start with the staff development, because service is an inward reach and an outward stretch.
One key initiative going forward is ensuring competence and sustainability. As such, plans are in place to create learning opportunities for workers who do not have passing grades in mathematics and English.
Customer service is key for us, but we must also look at the development of the staff. There are lots of things that bother people. There are people in the system who are stuck because they don't have the English, they don't have the maths. The Ministry of Health will be looking at that. We have already started a conversation with the Ministry of Education, through PSP Stana, to make sure that we help these people along. Because if you feel good about yourself, then you're going to give that thing. So we're working on that.
Martin shared another plan during the February 19, 2025 edition of In Focus to evaluate medical education and bridge the gap between past and current medical practices and the evolving needs of the healthcare workforce.
Continuous medical education. There's been a gap between the old style of nursing, the old style of doctoring, and then you hear the argument, well, the young one's not listening, or you still need that grandfathering. So the continuous medical education is an area that the Honorable Prime Minister has insisted that we do. Leadership development, team dynamics, and of course, to make sure that all in all that we pay attention to wherever gaps are in the whole performance plans.
As part of their development in the Ministry of Health, each worker is expected to attend at least one training session every year. These trainings are designed to improve workplace performance.
Of course, we have looked at the commitment of the staff. It's the 3 C's: commitment, competence, and chemistry. So we want to make sure that those 3 things are gelling, and that's what we're working towards in our training. So each person in the Ministry of Health must be exposed to at least one piece of training every year as part of their development in the ministry.
The Prime Minister and Minister of Health, Dr. Terence True, repeatedly expressed that revolutionizing healthcare is a priority of his administration, not only the health infrastructure, but ensuring a competent and resilient workforce. Nivision Pride, second to none, Culturama 51 will be the slogan under which the 2025 Culturama festivities will be held. The slogan was penned by Onisha Hunt, a resident of Hamilton Estate, Nevis. She will receive $500 cash, a plaque, and complimentary tickets to all Culturama ticketed events as a show of appreciation for her winning entry. The slogan was chosen from 105 entries. The entries were submitted between October 4 and November 29, 2024. The Culturama Secretariat said it cannot wait to honor the vibrant culture and heritage of Nevis with the winning slogan. Culturama 51 is scheduled to take place in Nevis from July 24 to August 5, 2025. Meanwhile, the Culturama Secretariat started its planning early as it issued a call for applicants for the highly anticipated senior pageants, including Miss Culture Queen, Miss Culture Swimwear, and the Mr. Cool contest in 2024. The deadline for filing applications was December 30, 2024.
The Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, ECCB, and the Regional Security System Asset Recovery Unit, RSSARU, have opened applications for the 2025 Creative Youth Competition, which targets students aged 13 to 19 from the ECCU's 8 member countries. This year's essay-focused competition challenges participants to address pressing regional issues. Submissions are due by March 31st, 2025. Entrants must choose from 3 topics: leveraging sports after the 2024 Paris Olympics to deter crime and boost economic growth, mandating financial education in schools, or reimagining the OECS education system to foster creativity. ECCB's acting senior corporate relations officer Nigel Brown emphasized the competition's dual aims:
stimulating the minds of our young people across the region in secondary schools and colleges. And so students have a chance to, enter this competition. There are different genres. And this year, we are focusing on essay writing.
Participants can win cash prizes of up to $3,000 easy dollars for themselves and grants of up to $2,000 for their schools. Essays must be original, 750 to 1,000 words, and submitted alongside a headshot and completed entry form via the ECCB's online portal. Brown stressed strict guidelines.
Failure to submit all 3 could result in disqualification. So those are the 3 things that students need to pay attention to enter the competition.
Submissions are anonymized during judges. Winners are announced by June 30th, 2025 and featured on ECCB platforms. The competition, active since 2018, has previously propelled winners to regional recognition, including appearances at high-profile events like the ECC Monetary Council meeting. Brown highlighted the competition's broader value.
Students will be required to do some research, first of all, in order to handle these topics. And this will help to expand their knowledge. It will help to, when they examine the various issues that these topics are on, it will help to expand their knowledge and also to allow them to, their voices to be heard and expressed in writing.
Winners can also earn bragging rights through media exposure and publication of their essay on the ECCB website. Addressing hesitant participants,
do not procrastinate. Go and get your topic, finalize your topic, get the necessary help that you need and submit it on the portal. Remember, the deadline is the 31st of March. And so go and give it your best shot.
The ECCB website provides full details, including submission links and topic guidelines. Technical support is available at info@eccb-centralbank.org. In a move to bolster hemispheric security cooperation, Her Excellency Jacinth Henry Martin, Chair of the Committee of Hemispheric Security, CHS, and Ambassador of St. Kitts and Nevis to the Organization of American States, OAS, convened a meeting with a high-level Brazilian defense delegation led by Rear Admiral João Batista Barbosa. The discussions centered on deepening collaboration between St. Kitts and Nevis and Brazil, particularly within the framework of regional security and defense initiatives. The strategic dialogue took place in anticipation of the Low Altitude Air Defense (LAAD) Defense and Security Trade Show, a major event scheduled in Rio de Janeiro from April 1st to 4th, 2025. The LAAD Defense and Security Trade Show, recognized as South America's premier defense and security exhibition since 1942, will gather various defense and security authorities from across the Americas and beyond. This includes prominent figures from the Naval, Army, Air Force, public security, and corporate security sectors. Ambassador Henry Martin's invitation to the forum as chair of the CHS underscores the significance of multilateral cooperation in safeguarding regional security. Her presence will provide a platform for advocating for enhanced collaboration and unified strategies to address emerging security challenges in the hemisphere. During the meeting, Ambassador Henry Martin reiterated St. Kitts and Nevis's unwavering commitment to actively participating in regional and hemispheric security endeavors, despite its status as a small island state. She emphasized the Federation's dedication to cultivating stronger ties with OAS member states to fortify defense cooperation and establish robust security infrastructure that supports democratic principles throughout the Americas. This commitment highlights the proactive role the smaller nations can play in contributing to collective security efforts and fostering stability in the region. Discussions addressed broader security concerns and the critical issue of natural disaster relief assistance for the Americas. The Brazilian Army's ME Codex, an annual crisis simulation exercise facilitated by the Inter-American Defense Board, IADB, was a key point of discussion. ME Codex serves as a vital humanitarian aid mechanism in disasters, designed to foster collaboration and information exchange among the 34 member countries, governmental and non-governmental organizations, and civil-military cooperation systems. The upcoming 2025 ME Codex, slated to take place in Guyana in May, promises to enhance regional preparedness and response capabilities further. The LAAD Defense and Security Trade Show will also feature a prominent exhibition by Embraer, a leading Brazilian multinational aerospace corporation renowned for its contributions to the aviation industry. As the third largest producer of civil aircraft globally, Embraer's presence underscores Brazil's significant role in defense and aerospace innovation. With a far-reaching global footprint spanning the Americas, Africa, Asia, and Europe, Embraer's LAAD Showcase will highlight Brazil's advancements and capabilities to the forefront of hemispheric security. In regional news, Grenada's Prime Minister says the European Union should apologize and pay reparations to Caribbean nations for the transatlantic slave trade. Grenada Broadcasting Network reports.
Outgoing CARICOM Chair Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell publicly urged European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen to call for an appropriate apology and financial reparations for Europe's role in the slave trade. Prime Minister Mitchell raised this issue during his speech at the opening ceremony of the 48th Heads of Government meeting of the Caribbean Community CARICOM in Barbados on Wednesday, which was attended by both von der Leyen and United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
Your Excellency Ursula von der Leyen, I don't mean to be impolite, but I will say to you, therefore, that the issue of reparations for the transatlantic slavery and the enslavement of African peoples and black bodies, as my comrade Ralph likes to say, is an issue that we will take up with you. And we are doing so in the hands of partnership, and we are doing so in the cause of humanity, because as long as we do not openly and explicitly reject the idea that one human being can own another human being, we run the risk that that idea may somehow take root again and be allowed to flourish and happen again in the world.
Several European nations were complicit in the trafficking of millions of Africans across the Atlantic from the 16th to the 19th centuries. Mitchell emphasized that as descendants of those who fought for freedom from slavery, it is their responsibility to ensure the transatlantic slave trade is recognized as a crime against humanity and that it is met with both an official apology and reparations.
We owe it to ourselves and to future generations of humanity to ensure that the transatlantic slave trade and the enslavement of Africans in the Caribbean, Latin, Central, South, and North America is accepted as a crime against humanity, and that the appropriate apology and compensation is paid, and that the international community accepts that this should never happen again.
Von der Leyen briefly addressed Mitchell's comments in her speech, acknowledging that slavery is a crime against humanity, but did not propose a European apology or mention reparations.
And yes, Honourable Deacon Mitchell, slavery is a crime against humanity. And the dignity and the universal rights of every single human being is untouchable and must be defended by all means.
Calls for reparations for slavery and colonialism are long-standing, but have been gaining momentum worldwide, particularly among CARICOM and the African Union. Reporting for GBN News, Beverly Telesford.
St. Lucia's opposition leader files a judicial review over Citizenship by Investment Program allegations. DBS St. Lucia has the details.
Opposition leader Alan Shastney filed a claim for judicial review on Thursday. Shastney says that his purpose is to get answers about the numerous allegations of malfeasance within St. Lucia's CIP stemming from the dismissed MSR Media RICO lawsuit. That lawsuit alleged that developers and CIP officials in St. Lucia and St. Kitts Nevis engaged in money laundering and corruption by, among other actions, selling citizenships below the official price. Shastney anticipates that if granted by the court, the judicial review could provide answers regarding the CIP's infrastructure option, which is central to these allegations.
We have evidence that has been provided by promoters overseas and other individuals that provide us with the proof that a financing scheme had been put in place, which in essence leads to an underselling of our passports and our citizenship. And why is that important? Because as we've indicated, if in fact that there is evidence, which we believe there is, that these applications are not complying with the laws of St. Lucia, then it has significant implications to our banking system and our correspondent banks. And that's what makes this case very special.
Shastney has also requested an injunction from the High Court to prevent the Citizenship by Investment Unit from issuing further citizenships until the case is heard.
And why did we think that that was necessary? We saw in September correspondence to show that a particular law firm here in St. Lucia had actually processed 450 files under the infrastructure program. And remember, we've now shown that with Galaxy, all they have to do is provide the administrative fee for them to get the passports. We also are reliably informed that the immigration department that prints our passports is even working on weekends to try to catch up with the backlog. And the purpose of the injunction is because what is the remedy if in fact we are right, which we strongly believe that we are, that there was malfeasance, there was these are illegal programs that are being conducted, or are being managed, and therefore all the passports and citizenships that are being issued are illegal. How do we remedy the problem? So all those persons who thought that they were participating in a legal program, to now find out they're not, what is going to be now the recourse for the state? And so on this reason, we are strongly believe that there ought to be an injunction.
A similar judicial review of the CIP in St. Kitts and Nevis last year revealed instances of passports being undersold. For the DBS News World, Zane Romulus reported.
We now bring you these international reports.
Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu on Friday said Hamas would pay for failing to return the body of hostage Shiri Bibas, as agreed in the ceasefire deal. That's after Israeli specialists said one of the 4 bodies Hamas handed over on Thursday was an unidentified woman instead. The 3 other bodies included Bibas's 2 infant sons, Kafir and Ariel, who were identified.
We will act with determination to bring Shiri home along with all our hostages, both living and dead, and ensure Hamas pays the full price for this cruel and evil violation of the agreement.
Hamas said Bibas's remains appeared to have been mixed with others after an Israeli airstrike hit the place she was being held, later adding that it was investigating the possible error. Netanyahu gave no details on a possible Israeli response, but the incident highlights the fragility of the month-old ceasefire deal reached with US backing and help from Qatar and Egypt. The failure to return Bibas's body during this staged public handover caused outrage in Israel.
It's like they make a joke of us, and the mother they just sent a body, and it's so painful. So the family has to go and bury them and to make sort of a closure. And now the mother is missing, and it's so frustrating.
The Red Cross said it was concerned and unsatisfied that the handover of the bodies had not been conducted privately and in a dignified manner. Hamas is due to release 6 living hostages on Saturday, with the start of the negotiations for the ceasefire's second phase expected in the coming days. A group representing hostage families said they were horrified and devastated at the news and called for the ceasefire to continue so all 70 hostages could be returned from Gaza.
Donald Trump says he still recommends his plan to take over Gaza, but won't impose it. Trump had suggested the entire population of the Strip should be forcibly removed and resettled elsewhere. His comments follow the conclusion of a meeting of Arab leaders in Riyadh that discussed the future of the Strip. Leaders from Egypt, Qatar, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, and Kuwait attended the talks hosted by Saudi Arabia. All right, let's bring in our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett in Washington, D.C. Kimberly, good to speak with you. What else are we hearing from Donald Trump?
Yeah, with regard to those comments by the U.S. president, not only is the U.S. president saying that he's not going to oppose his plan, that he's only recommending it. What he's saying is that the reason for this is that the bottom line is the United States believes there's just no future for Hamas, and that once Hamas is gone, the plan is for the United States to start developing the Gaza Strip, that they believe that on the part of the United States that the residents of Gaza, Palestinians, really don't want to live there, that given the choice, they would rather live somewhere else. And if they had the option, they would leave, he says. Now, what the U.S. president is also saying is that with regard to the fact that there have been bodies that were returned by Hamas as of yesterday, what he says with regard to those bodies, that Hamas has not lived up to the conditions of the ceasefire, that the fact that one of those bodies was not the captive that was expected is something that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has a right to be angry about. He says that the handover was in a manner that was unimaginable, brutal, and in modern times, simply unacceptable. And he also says that the Israeli Prime Minister has a right to be angry about that. He says the conditions of the captives that were released earlier was also unacceptable. He says that they were released in poor condition, similar to that of they had been held in conditions that are similar to a concentration camp. And he says he believes that Hamas is releasing captives in order of the best conditions first, and that those that are still remaining are in even worse condition.
Marwan Bishara is Al Jazeera's senior political analyst. He joins us now live from Doha. Marwan, so Trump is now saying that his ceasefire plan that he was advocating before, that it's a recommendation. This is a very different tone from what he was saying just days ahead of King Abdullah of Jordan's visit to the White House. Do you think that this is in response to the meeting that happened in Saudi Arabia? Is it just Trump flip-flopping?
I think it does. I think it has a lot to do with what is going on, or what went on Riyadh today. But yes, to your point, he has been kind of wiggling around the edges when it came to this. He doubled down a couple of times, but we know that every other lieutenant of his, including his special envoy, his secretary of state and everything, no one is promoting the idea. I think everyone understands, except Trump, that this is mad. It's madness. The important point here, Mohammed, is that there is method to the madness of the idea. And I think that's where we need to focus. We need to focus on the rationale behind it. I would say the following. He made the provocation in order to provoke the Arabs into responding with the way I think they probably are responding in Riyadh and in a few days out of Cairo. So you could say that effectively he succeeded through his mad idea into getting the Arabs to meet, to think, reflect, ponder, and come up with something that we will know more about it come March 4th. But the early signs are that they feel the need to come up with something that somewhere between what they came up with back in November in their summit and what Trump is suggesting the last couple of weeks. And that's why whatever the Arabs are coming with, whatever Saudi Arabia and Egypt are recommending, will be a compromise between their ideal and the Palestinian rights and the madness that have been coming out from the White House.
Apple is taking the unprecedented step of removing its highest level data security tool from customers in the UK. Now, viewers might remember in the last couple of weeks we covered this story after the UK government demanded access to user data, and we explained that possibly it would lead to Apple taking this step of moving its highest level data security tool. This is called Advanced Data Protection. Let's find out a little bit more about this story and go to our senior technology reporter, Graham Fraser, who's in Glasgow. First of all, explain for us what this data security tool does.
Well, as you say, this tool is called Advanced Data Protection. It's an opt-in service for Apple customers. It applies end-to-end encryption on all their photos and documents if they wanted to. Now, only the account holder would have access to this. Not even Apple had access to it. Now, a couple of weeks ago, it emerged that the UK government had asked for the right to see this data. This was served under the Home Office under an act which was compelling firms to provide information to law enforcement agencies. At that time, Apple did not comment, but they have consistently said that they will not allow so-called backdoors to their encryption services because that could allow so-called bad actors, namely hackers, to also find a way in. Now, as of today, the tech giant said it's no longer possible to activate advanced data protection in the UK, and for existing customers of it, it will start to be pulled away from them and will no longer have access to it. Apple have said they're gravely disappointed that this security feature will no longer be available to UK customers, and they added that, as we've seen many times before, we have never built a backdoor or master key to any of our products, and we never will. What does this mean? Well, it means that eventually no data stored on the iCloud in the UK will be encrypted. It will therefore be accessible to Apple, and it will also be made shareable to law enforcement agencies if Apple were issued a warrant.
Has there been any response yet from the government, Graham? And what do you think this means for Apple's business here in the UK?
Well, there has been no response yet to this breaking story by the UK government. We have had response from Professor Alan Woodward, who's a cybersecurity expert at Surrey University. He said it was a very disappointing development which amounted to an act of self-harm by the government. He went on to say that all the UK government has achieved in this is to weaken online security and the privacy of UK-based users. And he added that it was naive of the UK government to think that it could tell a US technology company what to do globally. In terms of Apple's business, well, obviously we'll have to wait and see what impact it will have. Some customers, of course, will choose Apple products so that they could have access to this encryption, and they no longer will be able to have this on their accounts. But we will find out in the coming months what impact it will have on their business.
The US envoy to Ukraine has praised President Zelensky as a courageous leader and said they had positive discussions in Kiev. The comments posted by Keith Kellogg on X within the last hour come after a turbulent week in US, Ukraine and Russia relations. I spoke to the White House reporter for Washington for Politico, Daniel Lippman, and he told me whether he thought that the US is taking Mr. Trump's criticism of Ukraine seriously or whether ultimately there will be a deal with Mr. Zelensky.
Well, this is what's interesting is that Zelensky was the first person who actually proposed the rare earth mineral deal to Trump. And so this is a way for him to continue to get military assistance. But of course, there's people in Ukraine who are saying, hey, this amounts to reparations and we were not the aggressor. But Trump is a very transactional president. And so if he thinks he can get something out of Ukraine and it would compensate the U.S. for all of the money, the billions of dollars we've spent on Ukraine, then they will take that. The ironic thing is that a lot of that rare earth is lithium, and Trump is against electric cars, and lithium is a very important element in electric cars. So it's a little bit of a dichotomy here in that sense.
What's the wider political and public reaction been to this very sharp change in position on both Moscow and the US's traditional allies here in Europe and to a degree in the UK? Is this something that you think has wider support in the Republican Party, which obviously many of those veteran political members have been through the Cold War?
Yeah, well, the Cold War was a long time ago. And so people who are growing up in the Republican Party today, they don't have memories of that. And so we used to do lots of business with Russia. We didn't expect that to change. And so I think that there is a lot of war fatigue in America, given the 20 years we spent in Iraq and Afghanistan and the trillions of dollars and thousands of lives. And so there is a isolationist tendency in the Republican Party these days. What's ironic is that Mike Waltz, the national security advisor to Trump, and Marco Rubio used to be very pro-Ukraine a few years ago when the war first started, and now they're having to toe Trump's line to not get too ahead of their boss and not appear like they're criticizing Trump. And so Marco Rubio is now in the position of having to reassure the Europeans, we're not going to abandon Europe. We haven't become allies with Russia. But they're still backbiting in the Republican Party, with the chairman of the Senate Armed Service Committee said that Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, was parroting Tucker Carlson talking points on Ukraine.
And next week, we're seeing President Macron of France and Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the UK coming to DC. Is there anything that they can offer that will temper Donald Trump's position? You know, what does the US need from Europe and the UK that they can usefully offer as leverage?
Well, I think what those European leaders are going to be telling Trump is, hey, we're increasing defense spending a lot. We'll continue to help Ukraine, that you don't want to cut a deal that invites Putin to start this war over in a few years after he rearms. And so they feel like it's very responsible for them to go to Washington to try to convince Trump face to face. But of course, Trump feels like he was elected on a mandate of stopping this war. And he doesn't think that spending another few years arming Ukraine is actually going to change the contours of the deal, that it's basically a stalemate and they should just kind of make a deal now to end the bloodshed.
And when Trump has been talking in recent times about putting out the fires, ending these wars and then focusing on China, is that seen as being politically naive, or is that genuinely what he's trying to achieve here? And this sort of sense of real haste in trying to sort out a deal with Russia and Ukraine?
Yeah, he wants the positive headlines of being a peacemaker. He maybe wants to get the Nobel Peace Prize if he ends this war and it doesn't restart. But this is someone who has also praised President Xi as a strong leader. He is a big fan of the Chinese president. And so for him to focus on China, well, what does that actually mean in terms of getting results for America? And what message does the U.S. abandoning Ukraine, if we do that, sent to Taiwan, which feel like, hey, they're next in the line of fire, and they're hoping that the U.S. would support them if there's ever a Chinese invasion.
You were listening to the WINN FM 98.9 newscast. Our top stories were:
the Ministry of Health maximizing its capacity to provide internal education opportunities for workers and quality healthcare to patients.
ECCB RSS ARU launched 2025 Creative Youth Competition, inviting ECCU students to showcase critical thinking. St. Kitts and Nevis forges stronger security ties with Brazil ahead of LAAD 2025. Grenada's Prime Minister says the European Union should apologize and pay reparations to Caribbean nations for the transatlantic slave trade. St. Lucia's opposition leader files a judicial review over Citizenship by Investment program allegations. Internationally, Israel says Hamas will pay for failing to return Shira Bibas. Thank you for listening.